Hola, ¿qué pasa? My name is Whitney Monastecuyaso, and I am La Hechicera of Horror, here in my conjuring corner of horror, tales of folklore, while I create art and sometimes makeup that pertains to those stories. And today's tale, I am going to be telling a southern tale from the coast that is a ghost that belongs in South Carolina. So this is the first time in a long time that I will be using charcoal pencils. So what I will be doing today is a sketch in this medium. Bear with me, as this is not something that I am used to. I remember starting out with sometimes shading a little bit, and then I will do a Kleenex, sometimes a Q-tip. Q-tip is always my go-to kind of little tool to blend in makeup and in both art. But yes, this coastal ghost is called the Gray Man. And from South Carolina, the legend goes is that this young man, he traveled to see his love. And this story, though, it takes place about 200 years ago. His betrothed, his love, she lived further away from him, about not too from Charleston, South Carolina to Pawleys Island. And there was a storm brewing, and he was trying to beat that storm to get to his love, his fiance. Just depends on the variation that you're listening to, but in this one, I guess I'll just call her his fiance. So when he was on his way and the storm was brewing, he had rode on horseback. He decided to take a shortcut, and evidently, unfortunately, or rather allegedly, he had been thrown from his horse in a marsh, like where it was muddy, almost like sand, quicksand-like. When he was thrown from his horse, he was severely hurt, and he couldn't get out of the mud. And he tried to get back out, but he was hurt pretty bad, and he struggled. And eventually it was said that he had passed. He had perished in the mud because of it was powerful substances. Quicksand had pulled him. And so the story goes is that his love, his fiance, she eventually had found out that he did not make it from the travel to come see her. And this devastated her. And she was so upset. She decided to walk out along the beach. And this is what I'm trying to convey here as I draw. I'm trying to draw a little bit of, do some sand here. Here I'd like to try to get like some of the water, but right here I'm trying to do the landscape of a sky. Eventually I'll break it all down, blend it, and work with it. no, it was said that his love, she walked along the beach, just trying to make of what had happened. She didn't understand. She just lost her love. She was trying to wrap her mind around it, and she was just so brokenhearted. And then when she was walking along the beach, close to the waters and the shore, she had seen someone who looked familiar, someone who was identical to her love, the one that had died. And then this identical person looked rather ghostly and gave her a warning and told her to evacuate the island. Another rendition of this story is that, or how she received the warning was that he came to her when she was asleep and gave her the warning to flee the island. But she took it seriously, and she evidently managed to get her family and her belongings together, and they left the island. Now, that being said, with that being an old tale, with this being 200 years old, it's said that people have seen this man who looked identical to her love. And people say that he looks like a gray man, like he's dressed in an overcoat that is gray. And he looks almost as if it's a gray pirate coat. Sometimes would say he looks completely like a pirate, or wearing a pirate hat or a colonial hat. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and work on his figure as to how people see him. But yeah, people say they see this man in a gray overcoat. Just this little figure here, walking along the shores right before a bad thunderstorm or hurricane. Some people, they would say, not only would they see him in this gray overcoat, some people would see him I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna have to take this out and blend it, and I'd like to do a little bit more up here with the setting. But when people see him, some people say they don't see all of his body, they just only see parts of his legs or no legs. But they definitely manage to see this overcoat. So, with that being said about this entity and his legs, I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of take some of this water, this pencil, and kind of blend it out a little bit down here. Run it through a little bit this way. I think I'm going to smudge it this way a little bit too. Smudge it down here to the sides. But when people see this entity, and as he only appears during certain storms, bad storms, prior to bad hurricanes, and they see him as a warning. And when people say, if you see this ghost, you better leave the coast. So, anyway, there are a lot of people that have claimed to have seen him in his gray overcoat with his colonial hat or pirate wear. And when they heed that warning, they leave. They evacuate, they make their plans, because every time he has been seen, there have been noted storms. The latest encounter is that of 2018. And that storm was Hurricane Florence. And images had circulated, like paranormal outlets or local outlets. I think that's what I had come across some information on, of some sightings of him. Just before that hurricane came through. But in the time of 1945, there was a really devastating hurricane that was a hurricane that took about 95 lives. And a lot of homes were damaged. And people that had seen this man had claimed that during that time, it was rare that some would believe in local lore. He would help. Not only is he a warning, but he is somewhat of I wouldn't say savior, but he would have some of those homes become unscathed. And some of those homes that didn't perish were those that belonged to the ones that claimed to have seen this gray man. And there was one lady in that storm that had said when she had saw him, her home was unharmed. I wish I got the source of the name of the individual, but I do know there is a name of a couple called Jim and Clara Moore, and their story became national news. And it also went to the television series of Unsolved Mysteries. And their episode of Unsolved Mysteries aired in 1989 with their story and their claim to him. Jim and Clara Moore, supposedly, they were walking along the beach and they saw the gray man, or they didn't really look at him as like an entity rather, but they saw him as just like a normal person, just walking along the shore, having a look out, and he was wearing a gray overcoat. And Jem and Clara, they say when they see people, they like to acknowledge the person by waving or saying hello or good day or something like that. And so they claimed when they looked up to try to acknowledge this man that he had vanished. What's interesting is that there's one thing I might have left out, is that in the legend, when his love had seen him, or thought she had seen him along the shore, before he gave his warning, he disappeared as well. He vanished on her. But back to Jim and Clara. They said he vanished. And they thought that was very strange. So they moved along and they thought, okay, well, they just went ahead about their day. And I don't remember if they did evacuate to leave the storm or not, but I do know that in the story that they told on that episode was that their home was unscathed from the storm. And as I've said before, a lot of people that have claimed encounters with this coastal ghost, they say that their homes are not harmed. They claim in a way that this man, this figure, this ghost is like, even though like he's a warning of bad storms, if you see him, people that have seen him, it's like there's good luck for them, for those individuals, that their homes are saved. It's pretty crazy, isn't it, when you think that way? And you see people with these claims and encounters that could be quite a blessing. Because there's so many terrifying encounters that people claim to have about ghost stories, or but there is like maybe some, when you hear some encounters and stories, that people have some pretty decent ones, and despite the warning of weather, not all is lost when you see this individual type of ghost. But that episode of Unsolved Mysteries, you can go watch it if you're interested. It is available on Tubi. So if you don't have Tubi, go look for it. Go find it. And it is season 3, episode 7. But yes, if you happen to go to Pawleys Island, be very careful. As they say, if you see this ghost, leave the coast. And if of anything, if you happen to have a home and you do see this ghost, you might get lucky, and more than likely it may work in your favor, and your house may do well and withstand the storms and the hurricanes. Now, I'm trying to do a little bit of lightning to kind of crash into these waters to convey these storms. No, just erasing a little bit. You know, my preferred mediums are pencil, and I like to work in ink. But I don't know. I mean, this is the first time in a long time that I have worked with this charcoal medium. It's a little messy, but it's kind of fun. It's different. Very, very different from what I'm used to. The thing that I have in common with this, with a regular pencil, is sometimes when I do shape things, I like to take the eraser and go in on the places where I have blended things out and pull the color out with the eraser so that I can have some light showing through. And that's what I'm doing with this lightning that's crashing into the water down here from the storm that's brewing in front of the gray man. But I figured with this being hurricane season is usually between the 1st of June and until like the end of November. And I figured it would be interesting to depict this legend to the south. And with a lot of my stories, I'd like to bring some sort of awareness to things that happen in the now, today, regardless of how old these ghost stories or horror tales and legends come from. This is 200 years ago that this thing has derived from, yet and still our climate and our weather, no matter in the south or the coasts, all the way down to South America and whatnot, weather will always have her way. Mother Nature always has her way. She can be unruly. I mean, it's always been that way for hundreds of years. And with that being said, I'd like to bring some awareness on some of the safety that is important during hurricane season. So I feel like with the climate constantly shifting in different ways, I feel like this year it's especially important to emphasize the safety of how to take care of yourself during these hurricanes if you are on the East Coast or further down. It's important to secure your documents. It's extremely important to have your first aid kits. Then, the common sense kinds of things. Have enough water, non-perishable foods, and to keep all your devices, like your portable chargers, all your devices charged, your phones. If you need to have like your tablet or, your laptop or something, all of those things charged. Regardless of if you do or don't have a way to do like LTE or connections or whatever. You just never know, if you have any sort of backup energy sources to use, that's great. But flashlights, batteries for those flashlights, and depending on your local weather and radio stations, it's extremely important to listen to those. Extremely important, because they can give you directions as to if you need to evacuate the premises. And so it's important to listen to your local news, because some people, they will just not. And unfortunately, some of those people end up in tragic situations. But yes, please listen to your local news. And follow those instructions and come up with your exit strategies so that you can evacuate should you have to evacuate. But that's all I can pretty much give at this point, from my standpoint. But while I'm talking about the safety of those things, it's completely necessary to pay attention to your surroundings, your weather, and listen to all the things. Go to the website www.ready.gov, and that will give you details of all the things you should do during hurricane season and when one is coming close to you. And I feel like that is extremely important and can be terrifying, much more terrifying than the gray man or any warning of a ghost. So even though with this story they say, if you see the ghost, leave the coast. I don't have a rhyme for a warning of a weather warning if should you have something come to your home and leave. But it's serious, it's pretty serious, and I feel like it's extremely important to take care of yourself and your loved ones. And if you see something, people around you, your neighbors, say something. Like if you, it's important to keep those informed. Everyone around you needs to know if they're not aware. Just say, hey, if you see a neighbor that just happens to be out, or if you have a friend that lives close to the coast, especially, and you know that there's a storm coming, just check in on them. Check in on your people. Make sure they know the things and see how they're doing. But with that, that's all I can give and say for today. And here is my brief sketch on Little Gray Man. Where he's out on the coast, walking along the waters. So, yes, again, that website to go to for more details and safety is www.ready.gov. And as I wrap up here, I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you to watching this episode of La Hechicera of Horror. And feel free to share my sites, look at them, and like, share, subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this episode. If there's anything that you may or may not know about this coastal ghost, about the gray man, have you had an encounter with him? As I said, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, tell me what you may have, any thoughts or insights on this entity or story or whatnot, and possibly, whatever you thought of this presentation, this art, or if you happen to do any charcoal art or want to look into it, or just, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the medium. And so this, again, is La Hechicera del Horror, Whitscraftngore, and socials and sites. Is my link tree, www.linktree/Whitscraftngore. So with that, I will bid farewell until next time with my next episode here, my Conjuring Corner. Come back. Adios, amigos.